Are you looking for better shooting experience? How about a facility where you can shoot all of your firearms in the same day, where you can move and shoot steel, draw from the holster, and practice your rifle work out to 600 yards? Shoot a very challenging sporting clays course or a round of trap or skeet. You can do all that and much more at the Aurora Sportsman's Club. Hi, I'm David Lombardo, president of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. If you love the outdoors, you'll want to know all about Northern Illinois' largest outdoor shooting facility, the Aurora Sportsman's Club. If you're a novice looking for a basic course, an experienced shooter looking for an advanced course, or perhaps you want to participate in your favorite shooting event, or just spend an enjoyable day with a family, the Aurora Sportsman's Club is the only shooting facility in the region that offers all that and more. Interested? Then you won't want to miss the next orientation and tour of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. Call, email, or visit our website today to find out how you can become part of a better shooting experience at the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois.
He is the human Molotov cocktail that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them.
So we're going to create a new government that serves you, your family, and your country.
It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech. Now, debating, debunking, and discussing today's hot issues, here are your hosts, David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz.
Welcome to On Target Radio. Tonight, David's rant of the week is, it's time to belly up to the bar of accountability, with David and Gretchen talking about New Hampshire residents attempting to hold government officials legally liable for infringing their Second Amendment rights. Did you hear what happened in Hawaii this week? The reasons for fearing government have just expanded. And oh brother, it is cold outside, and Al Gore explains how it is because of global warming, which has conveniently been renamed climate change. And finally, while the Dems want to oust Trump for mental deficiency under the 25th Amendment, Feinstein gets a pass at being stupid by claiming her mental faculties were impaired. All that and more on tonight's On Target Radio. So give us a call at 815-205-1584. That's 815-205-1584. Or go to Facebook, like our page, On Target Radio, and ask a question or make a comment there.
Today's Rant of the Week and more of David's work can be found at bearingarms.com. And now, from the seething cauldron of personal opinion, it's David's Rant of the Week.
What the hell was I thinking is my morning after reaction to what I thought was a brilliant idea as I was drifting off to sleep the night before. The thought that keeps reoccurring is I should be a liberal. I mean, let's face it. Liberalism is the path of least resistance. No fuss, no muss, facts be damned, full speed ahead. Take gun laws, for instance. Someone with way too much time on their hands has figured out that there are approximately 20,000 gun laws spread over many levels of local, county, state, and federal government. Admittedly, some are flat out stupid, such as zero tolerance for gun-shaped objects on school campuses, eating a Pop-Tart that some loony left teacher thinks the shape resembles a gun and you're suspended from school. But many laws are dead serious, such as bans against specific firearms because they simply have a militarist appearance. Those laws control John Q. Public, the owner of about 325 million legally possessed firearms, and it's true, that is one bodacious amount of guns in the United States. In fact, there are about 101 firearms per 100 U.S. citizens. The next closest country is Serbia, with 58.2 guns per 100 residents. The point is, if the owners of those 325 million firearms were the problem, you wouldn't need the press to tell you. Now, all of those anti-gun laws and ordinances were passed by government officials who blatantly ignore the reality of the Second Amendment. If you've ever fantasized about somehow giving some anti-gun elected official their comeuppance, you'll appreciate what's happening in Concord, New Hampshire. State Representative J.R. Hole has introduced a bill that would allow citizens to put pressure on local government officials to not restrict gun rights by allowing citizens to individually sue local elected officials who vote to to restrict gun rights. Think about how many pro-Second Amendment people there are in your community. Then contemplate each one of them suing an elected official for voting in favor of a law that would restrict your rights under the Constitution. Casting a political body onto the rocks of eternal litigation would be a mighty checks and balances system. One would anticipate it would be a rallying cry for all pro-Second Amendment believers, but not entirely. A group called Pro-Gun New Hampshire expressed concern that such a law would give the legislature too much power by taking the decision-making out of the local level and investing it in the state legislature. In gutting local-level power, the bill gives, quote, exclusive authority and jurisdiction, unquote, over all things relating to guns to the state. On the other side of the aisle, reaction from the Dems is predictable. It's an abomination, and the bill's crafters will be consumed by a plague of locusts. Oddly, apparently none of the Democrats heard about how their own party in Washington just 2 years ago tried to enact legislation that would have allowed victims of gun violence to sue the gun manufacturer and the dealer that sold it. Never mind that the sale was legal to begin with. Then again, maybe they hadn't heard about it. The Equal Justice for Victims of Gun Violence Act was as popular with the Republican-controlled Congress as a screen door in a submarine. The bill would have repealed the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act passed in 2005 to protect the gun industry from an ever-increasing spate of lawsuits against both manufacturers and dealers of firearms used in the commission of a crime. It did not waive liability for damages resulting from defective products, among other things. So far, we're having an intelligent discussion about differences in public policy. Some of us feel the Constitution is just fine the way it is. Others, also known as liberal pond scum, see it as a living document that is subject to change at the whim of those that find it inconvenient. It is where the rubber meets the road that the real difference between the two groups rears its ugly head. We often noted that law-abiding gun owners rise to the occasion and hold themselves accountable to a higher degree of scrutiny. Liberals, not so much. In 2012, Jessica Gowie was murdered by James Holmes while watching a movie in a theater. The Brady campaign leadership encouraged Gowie's parents to sue Lucky Gunner, the dealer that sold Holmes his ammunition. What Brady campaign leadership knew, and Gowie's parents did not, was the lawsuit was spurious. It wouldn't stand in court under the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, but they still goaded the parents into bringing the suit. The exact motivation behind the action against the manufacturer is unclear, but about 3 months of legal fees and not a single court appearance, the lawsuit was dismissed. Not only did the parents have significant legal fees, the judge determined that it was a frivolous lawsuit which warranted the couple paying for Lucky Gunner's hefty $200,000 defense fees, too. The combination was too much for the couple, causing them to sell their home and belongings. The Brady campaign didn't seem overly concerned about the couple's plight, despite the fact that the organization took in $25 million in revenue that year. Which brings me to the point. Liberal anti-gun factions such as the Brady campaign could care less about the plight of both gun owners and gun violence victims. The former is the sworn enemy, and the latter is just so much cannon fodder that can be expended for the cause. It's about time to fight fire with fire, time to use their own tactics against them. Let's make anyone who pushes an anti-Second Amendment bill belly up to the bar of accountability and cause them to lose their homes and bank accounts. And that, Gretchen, is my rant for the week.
Well, I think that could have a chilling effect on people even running for political office.
I would think it would. Now, I suspect if Mr. Ronkowski were listening, the phone would light up.
I don't think, from the perspective of someone who is an elected official, I don't think that allowing lawsuits against individual elected officials is the answer. I mean, I think
can't do it.
Having those laws stand up to the scrutiny of constitutionality is the answer.
Actually, I said you actually can't do it, but see, here's the interesting thing. You can't sue a government official for acting in their capacity in good faith. Mm-hmm. You may not agree with what they're doing, right, but if there's not negligence or whatever. Mm-hmm. However, and I forget it, in there's a federal law that if you violate someone's civil rights, and this actually is the Second Amendment, that's a civil right.
No, it's not a civil right, it's a constitutional right.
Well, when civil rights are violated, they're violating a constitutional thing. So, like if you discriminate against any segment of the population, that's federal. I mean, you're violating the Constitution. Anyway, the point is, if someone is violating your rights, then you actually can sue them personally, and they're not covered by the blanket of the office that they hold.
So then why do they need this law to be able to sue?
Well, I don't know.
If what you're saying, if you're not talking out your ass, which you could very well be.
I just get a news feed. I don't know. I don't know.
I think you're talking out your ass, personally.
No, actually, but that's true. And I can't remember. Is that in 1911? I can't remember what federal statute is. I knew it once, and
I don't know.
It doesn't trip off your tongue in normal conversation.
No, one thing that that I do think is this particular bill. This is New Hampshire we're talking about. This is not Illinois, but they apparently don't have preemption in New Hampshire, and so in general, I would say preemption is a good thing. Because, you know, being able to drive from one end of your state to another and not have to worry about gun laws changing as you go along, that is a plus. You know, when we teach Utah for concealed carry, Utah has complete 100% preemption. There is only one set of gun laws for Utah, and they are the Utah law, and that, you know, that's good for visitors. That's good for residents. I don't really see a downside to having total preemption. So, you know, that being the case, don't send me angry emails that, you know, that I'm in favor of limiting your Second Amendment rights. That's not true. So yeah, it's an interesting proposition, but I'm not sure it applies here in Illinois because we do have some preemption.
It's Section 1983. Violation of civil rights. It's been cited. Let's see. When this happens, the victim of the misconduct may have recourse through federal and state laws. The primary purpose of the nation's civil rights laws is to protect citizens from abuses and commercials coming up that will encroach on the time that we have for editorial. That was smooth, don't you think?
That was good.
You like that?
That was good.
I picked right up on that. That music just goes right through my brain. When we return, I'll have a better handle on what I'm talking about. When we return with more
on Target Radio.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. The On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invite you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
Do you dread writing? Is it challenging to find just the right words to get your point across? Do you put off developing marketing materials because you just don't know where to start? You get one chance to make a first impression, and my editor, Creative Business Services, can help make it a strong, positive one. Hi, this is Gretchen Fritz, co-host of On Target Radio, and I'd like to tell you about My Editor, a business I started to help you overcome those concerns. What you're experiencing is very common. My Editor has helped business owners, candidates for political office, and even authors and public speakers. At My Editor Creative Business Services, we can simply edit your existing work or help you develop an entire writing plan of action from initial project design through final copy. We are easy to work with and will help you get your point across in the most effective manner. If words escape you, send me an email at myeditor@mail.com. Use my editor, Creative Business Services, and go to print with confidence. That's my editor at mail.com or find us on Facebook.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
So just to put a cap on that, it's the civil rights thing. The statute known as Section 1983 is a primary civil rights law victims of, in this case, we're talking about police misconduct, rely upon. But this law was originally passed as part of the Civil Rights Act of 1871, which was intended to curb oppressive conduct by government and private individuals participating in vigilante groups such as the Ku Klux Klan. It's now called Section 1983 because that's where the law has been published. But it makes it unlawful for anyone acting under the authority of state law to deprive another person of his or her rights under the Constitution or federal law. So what that literally means is if you are acting in your capacity as an official, government official, and you, in that capacity, deprive someone of their civil rights, you personally can be targeted for doing that. You can be sued as an individual, and you're not covered by the blanket of your office, which, as we said on the break, I wonder how Anita Alvarez and some of those people had gotten away without being. Of course, you never know. Maybe they were getting sued and they paid it off.
Yeah,
I mean,
possible.
Cook County and the city of Chicago are notorious for throwing our tax dollars at solving problems.
Not ours.
Well, to some degree it is, yeah, because, I mean, we sometimes go into Cook County and Chicago. Well, you don't probably. You avoid it like the plague, but I go in and visit lawyers sometimes. So I don't know. I'm sure you heard this, particularly since I gave you the piece. But Hawaii,
Oh, yeah, I did hear about this.
Let's fear our government. You know, people say we're paranoid. Well, there's several interesting things about this. The first one is, how effective is our government at whatever level in protecting us? And it turns out not real effective. Hawaii, a couple of days ago at like 8:30 in the morning, I think it was,
Yeah.
they now have, because of North Korea, they've re-implemented that old system that they had under World War II, right, where they can announce, and they've upgraded. Now you get on your cell phone.
Right.
It sends you a message on your cell phone.
Right.
And we know what the message is because they just sent it out by accident. It said, ballistic missile, listen, just think about getting this on your phone. You're waking up at 8:30, and your phone goes, and you look at it, and it says in big capital letters, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Now, what would your reaction be to that?
I'd be getting right with Jesus, I think.
Just put your head between your legs and
Yeah,
kiss your ass goodbye.
Because there is no shelter.
Where are you going to go? At 150 miles an hour in your little red car, you're
Right.
not going far enough.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, you know, especially if you're a visitor to Hawaii, you're not going to know where there's a bomb shelter.
Yeah, and don't hang out in the terminal. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I'd see the prettiest site available, within
Right,
30
exactly.
seconds.
I'd
Yeah.
probably go out on the balcony and just,
Exactly.
just get right with
Oh,
Jesus.
look at the sun. Oh, no, that's not. Yeah, so now here's the scariest part of it. This was done by a mistake. Someone pushed the button.
They were testing it.
Yeah, and they pushed. After a message comes up and says, literally, are you sure you want to do this? The guy goes, hell yeah,
Yeah.
and hits it. Now, and this keeps replaying in case you overslept. It keeps coming up. So
Right.
when you turn your phone on, there it is. Here's the scariest part of this whole thing. It took them, and I'm not...
38 minutes.
It took them 38 minutes to cancel it.
Right. Yeah.
For 38 minutes, people thought they were going to be immolated.
Or die. Yeah.
Can you imagine the chaos that causes?
I saw some video. Of course, like I said, I'm not sure where these people thought they were running to, but
Well, yeah, where are you going to go? It's an island.
right.
It will take out the island, okay?
Right.
These bombs are more powerful than what we dropped in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and they
Right.
wiped out entire cities.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
It's not funny, but it is funny from the standpoint that they're so inept that one person, after seeing a sign that says, "Are you sure you want to do this?" will go, "Hell yeah, why not?"
I was thinking even my email service that I use for my campaign emails, MailChimp, they've got the picture of the chimp going, the finger is shaking. Are you sure you want to hit the button? Are you ready? I'm serious. They've got cartoon animation. It shows like a hairy chimp finger like, are you sure?
Yeah. This chimp was blowing up. Are you sure you want to do this? And he'd melt. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because this president really, he does what he says he's going to do. He's deployed this. There has been a B-1 bomber contingent in the South Pacific. He has now added B-2s. Now, the significance is that the B-2 carries nuclear weapons. The B-1s are conventional bombers. The B-2s carry nuclear weapons, and they're sort of just hanging around North Korea. They're just kind of hanging in there. Now, you gotta be, if you're Kim Jong-un, and we've got a fleet, we got a carrier fleet. In fact, we have 2 carrier groups, I think, there. I think we've deployed 2 carrier groups, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's see. This says several battleships, aircraft carriers, strategic personnel, and a
carriers.
Number of
That's several battle groups.
Advanced fighter jets.
If you've never seen a battle group, the carrier's like in the middle, and it's surrounded by
smaller ships. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that have nuclear missiles. I mean, they're awesome.
I thought we didn't have battleships anymore. This is saying battleships, but I thought we got rid of all the battleships.
I don't know. I thought we did, but I thought we did.
Probably,
because battleships are the big monsters.
Right, exactly. I think they mean something else. They probably mean battleships.
Could be destroyers. It could be a bunch of things.
Right.
But yeah.
Some frigates or something.
But yeah, how stupid is this guy really? I mean, realistically, if you have all, because that's a lot of nuclear weapons, okay? You got them in the air, you got them in submarines, you got them in the carrier fleet, you got guided missile destroyers that go where the fleet goes.
Right.
At some point, he's got a button, okay? Right. He's going to go, we're off.
Well, and did you hear? I'm sure you did that they were doing a test, and there's some evidence that the test was unsuccessful, and they actually blew up some of their own stuff.
They hit their own city. Except I don't think it blew up. I mean, it crashed. It lost power and went. It wasn't a nuke, but
right.
But yeah, they took out some buildings and stuff of their own.
Right.
How embarrassing is that?
Yeah, they blew up their own stuff.
Fearless leader, you dropped a bomb on one of our cities. Mm-hmm. Now, which brings us not trusting government. This whole thing, we follow this. This goes back quite a ways now, several years, about what happened with the Bundys. After all is said and done, and they take him to court, and what's his name got literally assassinated. I can't remember his name. But after all of this stuff that was done, the judge looked at all this stuff and goes, people are crazy. You're talking about an excessive use, a heavy excessive use of force. And now stuff is coming out about this, where this one guy in particular, Dan Love, who was the Bureau of Land Management law enforcement officer who led that 2014 raid on the Bundys, talk about, he was vindictive. He was making fun of their religion. I mean, it was a terrible thing. And this is an agent of the federal government leading a raid. And you talk about excessive force. I don't know if you remember that whole thing. This was about they didn't pay taxes on land. Now, it's land that they've been using to graze cattle. All the ranchers have been used to graze cattle for probably 100 years.
Right.
And there is a provision in federal codes that says the federal government can't own a lot of land. It specifically says that. This sort of land belongs to the state, not to the federal government. They've just sort of usurped it and taken it.
Oh, right. Well, the Bundys had said, back 2 years ago when we were talking about this, they'd said, we used to pay taxes for using this land too, or fees. We used to pay to the county, and we were fine with that because it was local.
Right.
The money stays here. And they're like, then the federal government, just grabbed this land, and the answer is no.
Yeah,
that was basically what he said. And I can't say that I'm not entirely sympathetic. I mean, I certainly understand, you don't want the federal government going around and doing that. Just in general,
right.
It's a bad practice.
The federal government is envisioned as the glue that goes between the states and holds them together. It is not envisioned to be your landlord
and it's supposed to
all of that. It's
supposed to provide infrastructure that the states can't provide, like interstate highways and airports and things like that. I mean, there are things that need to be controlled for the entire country, but this type of thing is something that hits the western states especially hard.
Big time.
It's not an issue that we deal with here, and so I think it's hard for a lot of people, especially east of the Mississippi, but even farther west than that. It's hard for a lot of us to understand. What they go through out there.
But it takes, and I don't remember the number anymore, I knew it. It takes an astounding amount of land to support one cow.
Oh, yeah.
And this country eats a lot of beef.
We love beef.
Yeah, we are big on beef.
It's what's for dinner.
It's what's for dinner, that's right. So it's not like these people are doing something wrong. They're doing what they've always done. The federal government has no business screwing around in states. They just, they have no business doing that. National parks, I get you want to preserve certain things. I understand that. And I get even that maybe some of them should be supported by federal dollars. But you know what? The federal dollars should be given to the state to support it.
Right.
They have no business. Why are they in the business of owning land?
Right.
Land belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to the federal government for them to kick you off. And you know what this is? This goes back to Bill Clinton. I wrote an article when I first started writing for the magazine, and they wouldn't publish it. But I traced back the people in the Sierra, the people who were running Fish and Game, Forest Preserve, all that stuff were all Clinton appointees, political appointees that came out of like the Sierra Club and all those things. They were all anti-gun, anti-hunting. Right? They wanted to close the properties off to public. It's public land. It is not. It's not conspiracy theory to think that the government is out to get you. This is a classic example.
Right.
And when we say that, I'm not talking about the President of the United States necessarily. I'm talking about bureaucrats who get into these things and they're unaccountable.
Right.
They're not elected. They're appointed. They do anything they want to do.
Right. This judge said that the actions of the prosecution were outrageous and violated due process rights. So, yeah, I mean.
In Nevada, the federal government owns 80% of the land. 80% of the state of Nevada.
Yeah.
Alaska is the biggest federal state. Most of Alaska is owned by the federal government.
Right.
And they won't let them drill on it. Things that they traditionally did to make a living, the federal government said, we can't do that. It's bad for snail darters or whatever the hell it's bad for. We got to get these people out of our backyards. Got to do it. And we're going to do that when we return. We're going to get them all out. We're just going to kick them all out. So we're going to talk about a little bit about Google and these fact-checking things that have come really hitting conservatives. So we'll talk about that when we return with more on Target Radio. Hi, I'm David Lombardo, co-host of On Target Radio, and I'd like to offer you a partnership opportunity. For over 4 years, On Target Radio covered the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech on AM 560 The Answer. But a 1-minute commercial was $200, making it tough to find enough sponsors. So last November, we left AM 560 and began podcasting. There's a learning curve to podcasting, and we've worked through the kinks and would now like to make you an offer. You can have a 60-second audio or video commercial for as little as $25 a week. We can also offer fellow conservatives their own radio or video podcast for as little as $100 a week with equipment and technical personnel included. You provide the content and host, plus get 6 free minutes of commercial time you can sell yourself. If you'd like to be an On Target Radio sponsor or explore the possibility of having your own show, call me at 815-741-3474 and let's explore the possibilities together.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
This segment is brought to you by the Will County Grassroots Division of the Illinois State Rifle Association. Join us at 7 p.m. Wednesday, January 17th at the Silver Dollar Restaurant in Elwood, Illinois. Bill Potts will be the guest speaker for the January 17th meeting. Potts is organizing a statewide effort to identify and bring together small groups of pro-Second Amendment ISRA members to visit each of the state representatives and senators in their local offices. The objective is to have local constituents talk to their respective representatives in the Illinois legislature about pro-Second Amendment issues. There will also be a meet and greet with ISRA lobbyist Ed Sullivan. Join us Wednesday, January 17th at 7 p.m. at the Silver Dollar Restaurant in Elwood, Illinois.
One little bit that we didn't get in the last segment, it's just kind of a quickie thing, but Google is now fact-checking. But interestingly enough, it turns out...
I think you should use air quotes when you say that.
Air quotes. Yeah, they're using Snopes.
I think every time you say fact-checking, you need to use air quotes.
It's interesting because someone who actually has, again, more time on their hands they know what to do with, has been keeping track of it, and it turns out they only really fact-check conservative stuff. Gee, there's a real shocker. But it also shows that they're dumb as bricks, because Snopes and Google, this just tickles me, Snopes and Google fact-checked an article that that says a professor said that the solar eclipse of 2017 was naturally racist, and they fact-checked it. Only conservatives, what are you going to say? And that brings us to one of my favorite topics. What are we calling it this week? Is it global? No, it's not.
It's not global warming anymore.
Al Gore has come up for air, and he's breaching for air.
You know, if I were that guy, I think I would just...
Shut up.
Be quiet. Yeah. I think I would try to keep myself out of the news.
He has more money than God. You ever seen a picture of his house, his estate?
Yes, I have.
I would, I think I could be happy there.
You know, it doesn't look that fancy, but apparently it is.
I expect it is. It's big.
It doesn't look, half as fancy as most of Hillary Clinton's houses.
Which one?
Well, multiple.
Or
any
Nancy,
of them.
Nancy Pelosi, who owns...
Right.
My favorite one is Maxine Waters.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that picture of her house?
I know that the district that she's elected from is too poor. So she has a house that she owns in the area
hovel that she owns
that she would have to own in order to be considered a resident there, but she actually lives in
a mansion.
In a nice place.
Yeah, she lives in a very exclusive gated community in a mansion and has this little hovel where she is, that's her district. And these people don't get that.
Apparently not. Or apparently they just don't care.
Well, maybe they don't care. I don't know. I wonder if they ever robbed her hovel. There might be paper plates in there or something. Al Gore, desperately at this point in his life, trying to be relevant, which is unsuccessful totally, has now come out with the reason it's bitter cold is they've changed it. It's very clever. It's not global warming anymore. It's climate change. See, with climate change, it could go either way.
Right.
Yeah. I told you, I think, when I was in college, my first or second year, which would have been 70 or 71, we had to read a book in some class, I don't remember what it was, but the author of that book, whose name escapes me now, the author of that book wrote how in some 20 years or whatever, we were going to have, it'd be an ice age because of climate change, because what we were doing to screw up the environment. And if we didn't stop doing what we were doing, there'd be a total ice age. People would die, crops would die off, and all that stuff. That same guy wrote the book about global warming, like 30, 40 years later, whatever it is, saying, you know, we're screwing up the environment. It's gonna... Mind you, people have just overlooked the fact that we didn't have the ice age. So now we have global warming, and it's melting everything, except what they discovered is the polar ice caps are growing faster than before. So now we're back to climate change, because that's safe. You know, it can be anything. It can be left or right. And
actually, to be at least accurate according to this article, they changed from global warming to climate change, and now Al Gore is calling it a climate crisis.
Well, of course, yes.
So now he's even taken out the, you know,
the change part.
The change part.
And replaced it with dollar bills. It's and for those of you who don't know this, because we've certainly talked about this before, Al Gore has hoodwinked the world on this climate change or global warming thing. What he has done, he has a company, he's one of the owners, he's part owner in a company that buys carbon credits. So, and he particularly has blackmailed.
You mean they sell carbon credits?
Well, here's how it goes, however you want to, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever.
Yeah. They really sold the airlines on this thing. Basically, like when a jet engine goes through the air, it has an effect on the atmosphere, albeit a small one, but it has an effect. So what the airlines do, they're mandated to reduce their carbon footprint. Okay? Now, how are you going to do that? The technology doesn't exist to drop it any more than it is. So they can conveniently purchase carbon credits from Al Gore's company. The money is supposed to then, in turn, go into planting bushes in Africa or whatever. And so old Al gets in $100 million from United, buys a shrub and plants it in Nairobi, and the rest goes into his heating bill in Tennessee. And he's been getting away with this for decades.
Right.
So the guy that's telling us how we're screwing up the world and we're all going to die is making a personal profit from you being afraid of that.
Right.
Yeah. That suddenly, it turns out we have a colder than normal winter. Now it's climate crisis. The fact is, statistically, this winter fits perfectly in with history.
Right.
Some winters are really cold, some aren't.
Just in case anyone missed it, Al Gore said 9 years ago that global warming would cause the northern polar ice cap to be completely free of ice within 5 years, but that was 9 years ago.
Yeah, and
so that didn't work out for him.
It's grown.
Kevin Trenberth, who is a scientist with the National Center for Atmospheric Research, says winter storms are a manifestation of winter, not climate change.
Excuse me, winter. I can't recall if we saw, maybe we talked about this last week. There's a number, and I can't remember what it is, but if we did what they wanted us to do, which would be economically disastrous.
Right.
But if we actually...
Which is what Trump has said.
Yeah, if we actually did it, do you remember what the number of degrees would be? It's like 0.0...
Oh, yeah. It's
like 2/100 of a degree.
Some tiny fraction.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, pass the ice cream. Screw that. Yeah.
It's like, I think I'm going to go drive around just for fun.
Let's get the caddy out. Yeah. No, the 50s one. The one that burns a lot of fossil fuel. Yeah.
The one that burns leaded gas.
The one with those big fins. Big car. Yeah. What I don't understand is why no one just puts an end to this stuff. Just goes, this is crazy. They talk about how scientists...
Oh, no. They call us doubters. They call us,
Yeah.
Well, they call us all sorts of horrible names. That we're what do they call us? They call us deniers. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah, right.
Science deniers.
Science deniers. They have, well, scientists agree. Well, yeah, their little hand-picked group of wackos agree.
Yeah,
but it turns out the majority of climatologists are going, that's crap.
Yeah.
It's just not true. It's not true. And then they blame cattle. That's another thing, which is why they want them off of federal lands. The environmentalists have been
No, I
trying
thought
to
they
push
wanted
it.
them off the federal lands because they didn't want them to step on the turtles.
tortoise, right. There's a tortoise. But
I
it's
thought
also,
it was because of the turtles.
The Bundy thing.
They had to switch
that
from the
land
children
was.
to the turtles because
Yes.
there's no children out there.
But they were young turtles. They were children turtles.
Well, they were.
Yeah.
That's true.
That is true that in Clive and Bundy's situation, that land had some turtle on it that was more important than people eating. But generally speaking, they I have no idea where I was going with that.
Climate change. We were talking about cows farting.
Can she say that?
Of course I can say that.
That's fine.
We're on the internet, A.
Well, I suppose that's true.
And B, that's not even a bad word.
I try to make this a family show, but then most kids are as vulgar as possible.
I was going to say, I think if we say farting more, then we'll get more like 11-year-old boys, which would bring down our demographic median age, which would
No,
be...
it might bring it up.
That would be a good thing.
It might bring it up.
No, remember maybe I shouldn't say this on the air, but remember Facebook said, On Target Radio videos are popular with men over 65. I'm like,
there's that.
No shit.
Yeah, we have a large gay audience, I think. I'm not sure.
If we have any gay listeners, please give us a call at whatever that number is.
Whatever the number is, call us.
I'm guessing the number is close to 0.
Here's the thing. We lose money hand over fist, but we produce a bad product, so it works out okay. I don't know. I think it was better when we were drinking on New Year's Eve.
It was a good show.
It rounded out better.
It was a damn good show.
It was. There was no farting, but it was a good show. Yeah. Well, it is what it is. But that whole climate change thing is, at some point, somebody has to just start reining this stuff in. And that's one of the reasons I hate Trump, because he looks at all this stuff and he goes, that's stupid.
Well, right. And that, like, with him pulling us out of the Paris Accords for climate change or whatever bullshit that was, he even said, like, it's not going to have any, we're already doing more than a lot of countries that are in it, to improve the environment or protect the environment. It's not going to have any effect on the environment, but what it will have an effect on is business.
Exactly.
And if we stay in, it's bad for business, and if we leave, it's good for business.
Look, I've been to some of the biggest cities in the world. I've been to Beijing, I've been to Shanghai, I've been to Hong Kong, and you go to Beijing on a nice day, and it's like, and they get a pass on this stuff.
Right, exactly, and that's what we're talking about.
Anyway, when we return, we're going to talk about getting rid of the president because he's crazy, and what's her name is crazy. When we return with more on Target Radio.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. The On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invite you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
In need of a ride to O'Hare or Midway Airport? Well, look no further. The Yellow Checker Cab Company is the cab company for you. With the Yellow Checker Cab Company, you will always be greeted by a friendly face and arrive safely and on time for your flight. Start your trip off right by taking advantage of one of their limos, shuttle vans, cabs, or courtesy cars. And airport trips are not all they specialize in. This 24-hour cab service will pick you up anytime, any day, for any occasion. From bachelorette parties to school dances finances to just a night out with friends. Yellow Checker Cab Company has the best rates in town. So sit back, relax, and leave the driving to the professionals. Once you experience their fast and affordable cab service, you'll be a customer for life. When it comes to cab companies, be sure to choose Yellow Checker Cab because you have the right to expect certain things from your cab company. For further information or to book your trip today, call 815-744-2900. That's 815-744-2900.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life. Stand by. Here's Gretchen with your action items for the week.
If you or your children like to shoot pistols and rifles and live in the Kankakee area, don't forget the ISRA Range has an air pistol and air rifle league on Wednesday evenings from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. For further information, contact Mike James at mikej@isra.org. The following Safer USA classes are at our facility in Waterman. Saturday and Sunday, February 3rd and 4th, Illinois Concealed Carry 1. This 16-hour class will be taught by David and Gretchen and meets the training requirements for Illinois Concealed Carry as well as Florida and Arizona. Sunday, February 11th, NRA Range Safety Officer taught by David. Saturday and Sunday, February 17th and 18th, NRA Pistol Instructor taught by David. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on Register.
I still think it's a good idea, doing a show after this one that would...
That would be crass.
Crass.
Blue.
That's a blue show. How many of our listeners... go on Facebook and tell us if you think we should do a second hour that would be adult.
That's right. No more family programming.
Screw family programming. We'll do an adult show. It's...
I think you just came up with Planned Parenthood's new slogan. Screw family programming.
Anyway, speaking about...
You're on fire tonight.
Speaking about really funny stuff, Feinstein, you know, they're talking about... they're so desperate to get rid of Trump. They've tried everything they could try. I mean, they've done
so
everything.
True.
They've thrown a kitchen sink at the guy, and it all basically bounces off him. When you start criticizing his wife's shoes getting on Air Force One,
right.
when you get down to that level,
right.
that really is the bottom.
You've got nothing left.
Yeah, you got nothing left.
You basically don't have a leg to stand on.
So now they're dragging out the 25th Amendment, which is he's a Looney Tune, right? He's unfit for office.
Well, it's not really. Well, they're trying to say he's Looney Tunes,
Well,
but it's
right.
really meant for like if they're in a coma,
Exactly.
or it's really meant for. They literally are like drooling now.
There have been some president was might have been Reagan after he was shot.
Right.
They invoked the 25th for the length of time until he
Right.
was back conscious and and there was some president underwent extended surgery, as I recall.
Right. Yeah.
And-
occasionally they'll transfer
Yeah,
power
yeah,
temporarily to the
yeah.
vice president if the president's having a medical procedure.
They're and here's the thing that they don't get, which always amazes me. You know, for instance, there's a Supreme Court, not a law, but a principle called stare decisis. And stare decisis is a sitting Supreme Court doesn't go back and overrule a predecessor. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not a law. It's just like a gentleman's agreement, right? They just don't do that. Well, the liberals don't much care about that. They just go, oh, that's it. Let's overturn that law. What they don't get is they're so stupid that if you're going to set the precedent, then we use it too. Mm-hmm. And when we do it, and they haven't with that I'm aware of, but they have with other things. There have been precedents like filibusters and things like that, where Republicans, like to play by the rules, and the liberals just go, well, screw the rules. This is going to work for us today,
right.
And they'll do it. And then later on,
and then
we'll do it, and they'll go, well, you can't do that. It's a constitutional crisis. Well, crap, it is. You just did it a few years ago.
Yeah, it's like, well, what about when you did it?
Yeah, well, they have no response for that. So And what they've done is they've marched out a cadre of psychologists who have never met Donald Trump,
Yes.
which is actually illegal now.
Right.
Who was it? What president did that happen? And they made it illegal after that. Was it Nixon?
I don't.
I can't remember what it was, but they did it to some. Oh no, I think it was Goldwater. I think it was when they were all
this says
talking about
something
how
about the
Goldwater was a
Goldwater
psycho.
rule.
Yeah, he wasn't
Yeah.
president, but yeah, that's what it was. So, you know, they're saying that the president is unfit for office and he's mentally incompetent and all that kind of stuff. They don't have a leg to stand on. It's not going to happen. But what it shows is the desperation of these people.
Yes, which actually gives me a good chuckle.
Well,
I rather quite enjoy it.
admittedly, I do find it humorous. I find it humorous particularly because they and the news, all they report about is how he's a failure. And Republicans are just going, he's got it weird, but come on. Let's keep
You
going.
got to
here.
admit, he's checking off the boxes.
Did you see the thing that I put on
Which is
our-
why they're losing their minds, because they know, in their heart of hearts, they know
They're
that,
screwed.
that he's checking off the boxes.
Absolutely.
He's fulfilling all of his campaign promises, and the like which they have never seen, and they are scared shitless.
Yeah.
I mean, there is just no other, I'm out of credits. There's just no other way to say it. I mean, they don't know what they're going to do.
Right. It's a beautiful thing. I just no president. I was just the reason I paused. I was thinking about Reagan because Reagan was a good president. I liked him, and Republicans, conservatives always hold Reagan up as the guy. But I mean, he didn't. I don't know that he intentionally didn't fulfill every promise, but I mean, he wasn't flawless. This guy's just He's just. I got a list. And when I was on the campaign trail, I promised something. Put it on that list right there. It's the next item. on
Yeah.
the list.
Kellyanne, write it down.
Yeah. And then he becomes president. He goes, "Where's that list?"
Pull it out.
And some of it's big stuff.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
of it is like seriously big stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean the tax reform bill they just signed, or that they just passed, contained a provision to take away the individual mandate for Obamacare.
Yeah.
That's basically going to kill
basically-
it.
That drove a wooden stake.
No,
through
it doesn't take effect until next year.
Next year,
It's
yeah.
like 2019.
Yeah.
So, Obamacare still has some time, but it's going to die.
What's interesting is the way liberals play that out. They go, "This is the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of mankind. Millions of people will not have health insurance." It's because they don't
They
want
didn't
it.
want it.
That's true. And it's because they didn't want it. They
Right.
were forced under penalty of an IRS fine.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And there were people, probably young people, who decided, it's cheaper to pay the penalty
It
than
is.
to buy the insurance.
Exactly. That's
And
exactly.
so they still didn't have insurance, but they had to pay the tax penalty.
Yeah.
Totally ridiculous.
It is.
Having that kind of a punitive situation in the United States of America is just, it's unfathomable to me. I can't even wrap my brain around that's where we are.
It's liberalism.
I know.
It really is. We talk about everybody, conservative commentators all across the country talk about liberalism, and liberalism is a mental illness. And,
Yes.
and people, you hear it so much that you begin to go, yeah, right, it's just more talk. But it's true. I mean, they lie. The problem with Republicans and conservatives, let me put it that way, because we've got some Republicans that, I'm beginning to wonder what Goldwater is. I mean, what what's his name, McCain is. The problem with a true conservative is, and it's not we haven't had crooks or bad people. It's a microcosm of society. But the biggest problem we have is we believe that if you play by the rules, it works.
Mm-hmm.
And it does as long as everybody plays by the rules. But they don't.
Right.
They don't play by the rules. And they will lie. Look at what they did to this family, knowing full well that case would be dismissed, that it wasn't going to stand the test.
It was
And
completely made up.
they goaded him into it anyway, and they went bankrupt. They lost everything they had. And you think that Brady campaign cared about that? They care less.
No.
It's just, casualty war, making the point.
Right.
I can't see a conservative doing that. I really can't.
No.
I couldn't look at myself in the mirror if I did that to a family.
No, see, I think calling it a mental illness, I think, is overly glib. I think that it would be more appropriately categorized as morally bankrupt. I mean,
that's true.
I mean, I think that, people in general, not Muslims notwithstanding, but in general, people consider lying to be wrong.
Right.
But liberals, it's like sport for
like
them.
a badge
I mean,
of honor.
it's just a means to an end to them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're, I would say, and maybe that's why they love to embrace the Muslims so much, is because, I mean, my understanding is
lying is
the
in the Quran.
Right, the Quran says it's okay to lie to infidels if it, is beneficial for you. And that seems to be how liberals operate.
It's sad, but it's true. They do. They will. I mean, you watch them every time there's some mass shooting. They'll walk over dead bodies to get in front of the camera.
And they like
pathetic.
elbow each other out of the way. I mean, yeah, they're just they have no they seem to have no sense of right and wrong. They just seem to have no moral compass whatsoever.
So, given that they're trying to get the President of the United States thrown out because he's a nutcase, Dianne Feinstein comes out and says she turned a transcript of an interview that was done with a journalist, which it debunked that whole Trump dossier thing.
Want to say that again? I thought you
Dossier.
were the one with the perfect French pronunciation.
Dossier.
Yeah, thank you.
It is a French dossier. On the debunk
I was going to say, that first pronunciation I have never heard before.
Dossier. Yeah. I'm from Southern Illinois.
Are you from Alabama?
But anyway, she says she handed this whole thing, this whole document, transcript over to some journalist. Now she's saying, well, I was sick and my mental faculties might have been impaired at the time. What kind of, she doesn't, all these staffers that surround her and complain about that her airplane to fly her home isn't big enough, they couldn't go, excuse me, Senator, you probably don't want to say that. That's probably going to be a mistake. It's just classic. Here's a woman who goes, I was crazy, but that's okay. But it's not okay. It's okay to say that the president's crazy. I don't know. You can't turn your back on these people. You really can't.
No. It's like I've said about some other people that we know. I back out of the room, any room that they're in.
Well, you know what? What can I say?
So Larry private messaged us, and I think he's talking about Al Gore. When we were on the Al Gore subject, he said he's a snake oil salesman.
Oh, yeah. Larry? Yes.
And
that is correct.
pertaining to the adult second hour show, our friend John Spann says, I would love a second hour of bad language and adult content. And he also said, we turn out a damn good product.
Kiss my ass. There we go.
Ding, ding, ding. That's one.
Hour 2 starts now.
The tote board lights up again. Woo!
The woman keeps track of language. That scares me. You know what I'm saying? She listens. Here's the interesting thing.
Have we told this story lately? So when we started the internet-only version of the show, he said that even though we were on the internet, I still had to control my potty mouth and keep it clean. He didn't want us going,
More of a family.
He didn't want us going all Howard Stern with it.
Yeah.
So, although I thought it was a mistake, I abided by the rules until he started throwing out curse words, and then I thought, if he's going to do it, then I can do it
just a
too.
minute. The curse word it was a quote. That was a quote.
Not the one you just said.
Oh, in this particular moment was it?
I'm not talking about maybe the first one that started it all. I'm just.
We're getting close to 9 o'clock, so you can. It's sliding. You know what I'm saying?
The kids should be in bed by now.
Here's the thing. She listens to every word I say.
Which is totally mystifying.
Only to find if I'm saying a word that she can put on a tote board to give her credits towards potty mouth.
You know, how is this different than any male-female relationship ever?
She doesn't
okay?
hear what I'm
Women
saying.
only listen to what men are saying so that we can use it against you at some point. This is not like news, okay?
Somebody put a meme on my Facebook
This is not new
page.
news.
Somebody put a meme on my Facebook page that said, "My wife is prescient. She knows when I made a mistake even before I've said it." Oh my God, are we out of time?
We're out of time.
Out of time.
Bye.
We'd like to thank our engineer, Eric Allen, and our sponsors, the Will County chapter of the ISRA, Yellow Checkered of Joliet, and Safer USA.
And we hope you listen next week when we cover more Red Meat Issues Affect Your Life. Bye.